Welcome to this episode where we're talking about values and priorities. Every day I ask myself, what am I doing to live my best life? You got this. I'm here because I want you to reach your peak.
You're listening to the Lifelong Learning and Leadership Podcast, brought to you by Three Pines Leadership. Here's your host, success coach, teacher, and mediator, Molly Doris.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the pod. This episode we're talking about priorities, productivity, and legacy building. My hope is that after this episode, you'll have a much better understanding of why priorities matter, why you should have them, how to make the most of your time, and so much more. I'm going to be going over a handful of exercises and activities in this episode, so I definitely recommend grabbing a piece of paper and a pen. Or better yet, grab your journal and let's start a new entry. Are you ready? Let's get into it. First off, let's talk about the basics. What are priorities? And why are they important? Priorities are the most important things in our lives. They could be activities, practices, or even relationships. For example, being a member of your soccer team may be really important to you. So showing up for practices, workouts, and games would be priorities. For myself personally, it's important for me to keep my body, mind, and soul in balance. So I've prioritized my daily yoga and meditation practice. Or maybe you really want to focus on the relationship you have with your partner or your significant other. Now date nights and movie nights have a whole new space in your priority list. Having clear priorities helps us make quick and impactful decisions that move our lives forward in the right directions for ourselves, our families, and our communities. When we don't have a clear vision of our priorities, we can struggle to find meaning in the work around us. We usually struggle with feeling overwhelmed or feeling as if you're being pulled in 100 directions. Oh, and not to forget about shiny object syndrome for those of us who are easily distracted. When we set priorities that matter to us, we are more motivated to make a difference. It becomes easier for us to stay focused and to stay on track. Nothing in life is guaranteed, except distractions, taxes, and death. And not to be a Debbie Downer, but think for a moment about how you want to be remembered. What legacy are you leaving? Do you want to be remembered for moving mountains and making great positive change? Setting priorities and taking action towards them is how to build your own legacy. So chew on that for a while. Now let's talk about what happens once we have our priorities figured out. Remember, you can always pause this episode, work on the assignments, and come back to the episode and keep working through everything. Let me tell you a story about when I was stupid broke. Like when I opened my wallet and there was nothing but dust. Stupid broke. I was sitting in the park with my luxury item, a library book, because that's how broke I was. I treated myself to the luxuries of books from the library. Yep. And on this day, I was reading about Warren Buffett. And if you don't know who Warren Buffett is, he's a billionaire investor, businessman, and philanthropist. He's the CEO of Berkshire Hathaway. But what I love about him was that he didn't grow up rich or successful. He was smart and knew where to put his energies to make a difference. Long story short, he knows a lot about money, but most importantly, he knows a lot about making progress. So I'm sitting in the park reading about Mr. Buffett's 5-25 rule. And what's the 5-25 rule, you might ask? Grab your pen and paper, because we're going to dive into our first activity. Let's begin. Start off by writing down your top 25 priorities or goals in life. I know, 25 is a lot, but think about this over the course of the rest of your life. You want to start a family? Maybe you want to travel to a specific place. Or you want to make it to graduate school. Or you want to get a fancy sports car. Or you want to write a book. Whatever they are, write down 25 of your greatest goals. And while you work on that, here are some adorable puppies. Done? Good. I hate to break it to you, but if you're trying to accomplish all 25 of those right now, your name must be Jack. Because you must be a jack of all trades, and thusly a master of none. But if you really want to move mountains and make positive changes, you need to start mastering things. The lesson in this is to focus your finite amount of energy on the goals and priorities that will move you forward. Why is this important? Because quite often we let ourselves go down the rabbit hole, and we give ourselves permission to dream, which is fine. For example, the person who wants to be an entrepreneur. They may follow down the path that adds new goals to their list, like traveling and learning a new language and writing a book and learning to invest and with a growing list of priorities, how will this entrepreneur ever get to entrepreneuring? What I suggest is changing the way you structure and prioritize your tasks for the day. Here's another little story. I used to be really disorganized, and then I had a teacher who taught me about checklists and to-do lists. I became a proud, yet obsessive list writer. I'd have a task list of 25 or more items for each day, and then I'd wonder why I was always down on myself when I could only complete 20 of those 25 tasks. Don't be like that. But also, don't be the person who has no priorities, who spends their day achieving nothing meaningful. Rather, I suggest you focus your day on 3 to 5 important tasks and put all of your energy into them. You'll need it to move big rocks if you expect to move forward. Talking about money, it's time to pay some bills.
Welcome back. So at the beginning of this episode, I told you that we were going to have a handful of different assignments. Now we're going to get into another one. Make sure you have your journal with you, your pen, whatever you need to write with. Let's get into it, all right?
This second exercise is going to help us understand what your priorities are. I want you to take a blank piece of paper and write down 100 things you want to get done in the next 5 years.
You can absolutely use a lot of the same items you listed out in the previous assignment. Make sure you are filling that out, making sure it's really reflective of your deepest desires, what you want to get out of life, where you want to be, and what kind of world a better world looks like in your head.
Then, I want you to circle the top 20 of those.
This list is going to start looking a lot like what we did in our 525 Warren Buffett situation.
From there, out of that top 20, I want you to pick your top 3. We don't have unlimited amounts of time to get our goals done. We can't manufacture extra hours in the day as much as I wish I could. So what we need to do is prioritize our tasks so that we can pick out what the most important things to do are. And in our next assignment, we'll talk about what we do with those priorities. So these top 3 tasks are your priorities, and you're going to carry those through as we talk about our goal setting.
So you've picked out your top 3. Your top 3 very, very most important parts of your life. Now, I want you to keep those in mind as you listen to the rest of our podcasts. You can also check us out on our YouTube channel, on 3 Pines Leadership YouTube channel. You can find us also on our 3 Pines Leadership Facebook page or the 3 Pines Leadership Instagram page. Any way you find us, touch base with us there. We'd love to hear from you. If you have questions about leadership, your why, your motivation, any conflict questions, anything like that, you can also submit those for our Tuesday question and answer shows, which will be here on the podcast, but also on our YouTube channel. All right. So all of this stuff is going to weave together. Keep us in mind. You should subscribe to us both on our YouTube channel as well as wherever you're listening to us on the podcast. That way you'll get all of the greatest information and you'll be set. You'll be en route to living your best life possible. I know this was a hefty episode, everyone, but if you understand this stuff, you'll be able to start changing the world. You'll be able to start finding time for what matters most. Like loose change in the couch, it'll just appear, kind of like magic. And remember, if you're looking for someone to give you a boost or someone to work with you one-on-one to help set your priorities and work through your goals, get in touch with me. I'm here to help you change the world.
That's it for this episode, my friends. Until next time, don't forget, I love you, and be excellent to each other.